Wait a second. Before we attack each other and tear ourselves to shreds like a pack of maniacs, let's just open the sack first and see what's actually in it. It might not even be worth the trouble.
What do you think? I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Hi.
Ah, shit.
Okay, it's worth it.
Finally, woo, your boy's caught up. Okay, so I'm the type of person that when you tell me to watch something, I don't watch it instantaneously. You tell me to watch something and my brain puts it on like the backlog list, and then I get to it like 2, 3, 4 months down the line. That's basically what happened with Andor, because everyone I knew was basically telling me, hey, you should watch Andor because you're gonna fucking enjoy it. But something weird was also happening around that point in time, which is I wasn't hearing any toxicity. So if you've been in the Star Wars community for quite some time, you already know that if any new Star Wars property comes out, there are complaints. And it's for everything, even The Mandalorian, because recently, even up to the last season, people were like, oh, the show should focus on nothing but Mando and Grogu. Why are we bringing in Luke Skywalker? Why are we bringing in all these side characters? Because that's the way in which the show was written. Now, I can understand the complaints around Book of Boba Fett, which is halfway through Book of Boba Fett, it stopped being about Boba Fett and it started being about Mando again. And I felt that was a shitty disservice to Boba. That was warranted. But the complaints about Luke being in the last season of Mandalorian was just weird to me, because we had originally established that Luke took Grogu at the end of season 1. So we knew that eventually we were going to be circling back to that. It just happened to circle back to it a little bit sooner than I thought we were going to circle back to it, but that's 100% fine. But as you're very familiar with, is the myriad of discontent in regards to more or less Disney Star Wars, especially around the sequels. That's a video for another day. But there was nothing about Andor. There was no complaints. There weren't any weird 20-minute videos with clickbait thumbnails that were designed to basically lure you in. None of that shit. It was calm. It was like everyone across the board, the entire Star Wars community. We looked to the right. We looked to the left. We looked up at the people who despise the sequels. We looked down at the people who only rock with the prequels. We looked over to the side, the people who only rock with the originals. Everyone came together like it was fucking Camelot and put their sword in the table and went, we agree. This series is good. There will be no discontent. There will be no arguing. We shall only enjoy it and mourn it when it is gone. Because there was fucking nothing. This show is fantastic. This is, in my opinion, up there with Mandalorian Season 1. Once again, I like to point out something. Star Wars can function. Star Wars can tell really, really good stories. You can get to some really, really dark and fucked up places in the Star Wars universe without ever needing to involve a Jedi, without ever needing to involve the Force, because there are just so many stories that can be told. Mandalorian Neo Crusaders, the Coruscant Underground with basically all of the bounty hunters, and how it's basically this really weird and intricate and fucked up caste system where the rich live in the canopies and the sky towers, and then the poor and the mutants and the diseased live in like this dark area of the planet that's nothing but smog filled, where it's just grime and dust everywhere, and you basically have to fight to survive every single day. There are stories to be told down there. There are stories to be told about Imperial genocides on whole planets in order to keep the Death Star plan secret. There are stories to be told about Imperial experimentations on the opposite side of the universe. There are so many great stories to tell. There are even stories, in my opinion, that if they wanted to pull the trigger, they could. And a story about the ISB, a story about the Imperial Intelligence Bureau that's basically going around doing whatever it takes, torturing whoever it takes, killing whoever it takes, in order to root out the rebellion and stamp out the rebellion before it occurs. The entire story of Inferno Squad that we only got in Battlefront 2? I want to say it was a story for Battlefront 2, the new Battlefront 2. I'm old enough to remember the original Battlefront 2. I'm talking about the new Battlefront 2 for like the Xbox One. Like, so many great stories to tell that don't involve a Jedi or involve the Force that are super compelling with really, really great characters. Andor is that series. I enjoy Andor, but before we get to like my thoughts completely on Andor, I need to address something in here because I don't know what's wrong with me, but apparently I really like Imperial women. Like I had noticed this before when I was playing Battlefront 2, when you first encounter Inferno Squad and you encounter Iden Versio the first time. I was like, oh, woman in uniform, she fine. But then moving on to Jedi Fallen Order, you encounter Trilla and the mask comes off and I was like, oh no, she's hot. Same thing here. Once again, what's her name? Her name is I totally lost her name. Her name is, if I can absolutely find it, Deidre. Why are you so fine? Like, she stepped out in that Imperial uniform and I was like, what is going on? Let me tell you right now, my boy Cyril was onto something, because if Cyril could have transmogrified himself into a fucking dog or transmogrified himself into a kennel inside of Deidre's office when she walks in and walks out, that man would have absolutely done that. You know, it takes a special type of human being to look at the woman that, like, you're gonna stalk, because that's exactly what happens. We're not even gonna pull any punches. I'm not gonna dance around the subject. He was stalking that woman because my man saw her the very first time when she walked in that fresh pressed Imperial uniform and was like, I'm finna stalk and marry this bitch. She don't even know. She don't even know what she's doing right now. She walked in with this fine ass Imperial uniform. Everything is impeccable. Like, she don't even know that I'm willing to sit in the corner and respond like a dog. Like, she'd be like walking, she'd be like, bark for me, Cyril, and he'd be like, ruff, absolutely. Because the very next thing that he does is, like, he's just standing and waiting out front of the Imperial Intelligence building, and she walks up on him like, what the hell are you doing here? My man, he has no shame. Like, the whatever is in his mind in that moment is what comes out of Cyril's mouth, because my man was like, oh, I've been coming here every single morning hoping to catch like a glimpse of you because, like, you gave me purpose. I was like, okay, Cyril, that's a little bit creepy. We need to maybe dial that back just a tad, bring it in. You know, you could be like, oh, you know, I got a promotion at my job, and, you know, I want to thank you. You know, maybe you'd like to go out to get a bit. No. That's not Cyril's way. Cyril is like, I've been standing out here every single day for the last 30 days because you bad, and I'm trying to have you throw a collar on me and have me up in your room or up in your office somewhere. You finna walk me from your apartments to work every single day, and I will wait out here for you to get off to come back and get me so you can walk me back to my kennel at your spot, because there ain't no way I'm finna let you go. And when she threatened him, I was like, that's not gonna work. He's gonna find some other way to, like, to get back into this situation, to make you realize just how much he actually fucking cares for you. And sure enough, at the end of the season, everything's going to hell. Deidre's probably going to be dragged into like some alleyway and just shot by the rioters. And Cyril comes down, saves her, drags her into that room. And the way in which she looks at him is hilarious. But it's the way in which he's looking back at her, which is even more fucking funny, because I can tell you in Cyril's mind right now, he's like, yes, I have earned that fucking collar, and she's gonna ride me all the way back to Coruscant. this is a victory, because he didn't give a fuck about Andor anymore. He came there for Andor. Like, he showed up on Ferrix for Andor, specifically to catch and kill that man, or more or less capture him, turn him in, and then reveal who exactly the person who works above him is. But once he saw her in trouble, he was like, not my Imperial mommy, not today. I've got to go save her expeditiously. And I don't know why, but like, that whole weird, twisted, fucked up relationship reminded me of Joe from Netflix. What is his name? What is the name of that? You? Is that the name of that show? I think the name of that show is You. Completely reminded me of Joe. Cyril is Joe from You. I'm telling you right now, if another season occurs, something is going to happen and he's going to snap and he's going to end up killing Deidre by accident. Or I may be absolutely fucking wrong, and both of them are going to realize that the Empire is not for them, and they're going to ride off into the sunset. I'm hoping for number 2, but at the exact same time, I more or less expect that number 1 may be a highly plausible situation here, and I'm preparing myself for either of these outcomes. One of these outcomes is going to make me mad, but accept it. The other outcome is going to make me super, super happy, and at the exact same time, a little bit sad. I'll let you figure out which exactly of those outcomes it is. But off of Cyril and Deidre, we're getting back to fucking Andor, because this show is absolutely fantastic. The music is fantastic. The setting is fantastic. Diego Luna coming back as Cassian Andor is fantastic. I did not know how I was going to feel about him coming back now that we know how his character ends in Rogue One. But because of how his character ends in Rogue One and that I love Rogue One, I'm kind of pissed off that essentially he's going to die. That eventually he's going to sacrifice himself for the rebellion to get the Death Star plans, of course, and get vaporized by that beam on... what's that planet called? I can perfectly see the planet, I can perfectly see the shore troopers, but I do not remember its name off the top of my head. Oh well, we're going to keep it running. So it's disappointing when you know the fate of a character and they're showing you all of this fantastic backstory, because then you try to attempt to justify in some way, shape, or form ways in which he could have survived. Homeboy ain't surviving. He got hit. Well, he didn't get hit point blank, but I mean, you don't need to get hit point blank by the Death Star beam to know that you are fucked. Like, he was probably about 4-5 miles away from the impact zone of that Death Star beam. Your boy got vaporized. His atoms got vaporized, and that is absolutely sad. Number 2 is my boy Luthen. This is a character that I don't think I want them to kill, because first off, you're telling me that for the last 30 years, yes, the last 30 years, we've been seeing people get snatched up by tractor beams. We've had tractor beams snatching people up in video games. We've had tractor beams snatching people up in books. We've had tractor beams snatching people up in the MMO Star Wars Star Wars The Old Republic. And if you ever play that, it's fantastic. Don't play it for the social shit. Like, there's not a lot of people on there now, but if you want to sit down and play a Star Wars game with a really good story and then a really good class campaign, absolutely go and play that game. It'll probably last you for like 2 months. But all we had to do was open up a back hatch and toss some forks out to just completely shred a tractor beam. Why is this not installed on Han Solo's Millennium Falcon? I feel as though every single smuggler in Star Wars should have this as a required add-on for your smuggling ship. Oh my god, the Empire has me. No, they don't. Not anymore. Press a button, open up some flaps, throw out some silverware, done. You're out of there. You're gone. So going back to the original trilogy, knowing that Han Solo is like this, a smuggler and bounty hunter, I'm like, why isn't this should be Han. This should have been priority number 1. The number 1 major install the Falcon needed. The Falcon needed this, because there was just a bunch of situations that I'm sure you'd have been able to get away from. For instance, if you had this when that Imperial cruiser was on your ass and they were going to tractor beam you, instead of dumping Jabba's spice, you could have just pushed a button, open up the back flaps, release your silverware, and got the fuck up out of there. Instead, you dumped the spice. Jabba was on your ass for like 3 fucking movies. 3 movies. 3 movies? We hear about him in the first one, unless you watch the extended edition. He gets captured in the second one. 3 movies. Jabba's on your ass for 4 movies. If we take into account that technically at the end of Solo, that was when you were going to go to Jabba to get that mission started. Absolutely fucking insane that that's not an install on the Falcon in any way, shape, or form. Watching the rebellion be this early in its infancy, where they're not super established yet. Nobody basically knows that they're out there. Like, Imperial intelligence, for the most part, knows that there's certain groups like Saw Gerrera's partisans that are out there, but they don't know that there's like this big interconnected web. And the interconnected web is basically what Luthen is trying to build to make this from a small fire in multiple parts of the galaxy to like this really big flame that the Empire is not going to be prepared for when it finally happens. On the complete flip side of that, you have somebody like Mon Mothma, who's basically in the Senate as we speak, talking to other senators who are also looking at the state of the Empire and going, yeah, Palpatine, this ain't it. Yeah, no, the Empire ain't it. The Empire ain't it at all. And she's working things on her end, but because she's trying to stay squeaky clean, it's harder for her than it is for Luthen, who's basically working in the shadows and wears 2 faces, where he's at one point in time the charismatic art seller, and then when he's out on a mission, he's basically like this cold-blooded, ruthless, calculating tactician. I love both of the versions of these characters. I love that the very first time he goes back to Coruscant, he throws on the wig. I was like, what is going on here? What's up with the wig? He throws on the wig. Like, he starts trying to get back into the character of the carefree, drunk idiot, where like you see him performing on the ship to try and get back into character, to try and basically be the disguise again. And then the second he gets back onto the ship, he has to go back on the mission. He takes off the wig, right back to serious, calculating Luthen. Love seeing Saw Gerrera again. That's always great. I love the fact that we're seeing a lot more of the groups that we heard things about in Rogue One, which is we got Saw Gerrera and we got that other guy who's I can't remember what his whole deal is, but I know that he was mentioned in Rogue One by Saw Gerrera, like in passing, like, you know, oh, the greats are basically gone, blah 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 blah. That guy was blah blah blah. Basically, it's like when they said the name, I was like, okay, like he was mentioned in Rogue One. I remember that from like there. What else is there in this show that like I really wanted to? Because I already mentioned the fact that, for the most part, like I love Star Wars stories, or at least Disney choosing to tell Star Wars stories that no longer require a Jedi or a Sith or a Force user. It's just basically Star Wars standing on Star Wars. Characters in Star Wars, scoundrels, Imperial agents, troopers, things along those lines, Mandalorians, being able to tell their story and having their story be just as engrossing as anything that's going on with the Jedi or the Sith in any way, shape, or form. Now, there is one thing that I can honestly say is I feel like I'm getting rebellion fatigue a little bit. And what I mean by that is there are so many other stories to tell. There's so many other places we can go. Old Republic, High Republic, Brotherhood of Darkness, Rule of Two early on with Bane and his apprentice. So many other different directions that we can go in, different stories we could tell. Jumping into the future, Cade Skywalker. Of course, it's not going to happen because the Skywalker clan is basically dead. Skywalker clan is basically dead, but it is something that could happen down the line. But like I said, so many directions that we can go in to constantly go back to the Skywalker saga era. At some point in time, massive fatigue is going to set in. Currently, that's not happening with Andor. Andor is a story about the sparks of rebellion happening and how Cassian basically got involved in this entire situation. Oh, the prison barge. The prison barge was absolutely fantastic. Seeing he played Snoke. I can perfectly see him. I see him as Claw. I see him as Snoke. I don't remember his name. I see him as Gollum. Absolutely fantastic seeing him once again. The speeches in the show are absolutely fantastic. His speech to the prisoners, great. Luthen's speech about what he sacrifices for the rebellion. Cassian's mother's speech, basically telling them to essentially stand up and and fight back and kick these Imperial bastards off of their planet. Like, everyone's speech is A1. Across the board, love it. All their speeches are fucking great. Like, every single time somebody started like a really serious monologue, your boy was paying attention. I also like the fact that they show just how scummy and evil the Empire actually is, with like arresting people and sending them to prisons that they don't get transferred out of. They just get transferred over to another prison because the Empire employs slaves. And you would think that Darth Vader would have an issue with this, but he's too far gone. Like, Anakin would have had an issue with this, but Vader doesn't give a shit. Vader's like, I'm just here to hunt Jedi, bro. I don't care about I don't care about y'all problem down there. That's y'all issue down there. Like I'm up here with Palpatine doing like my own thing. But yeah, absolutely fucking love Andor. I don't think there's going to be any supplemental videos I'm going to be doing for Andor. Who knows? There may be some stuff that I want to talk about that I found funny. But let me know what you think about Andor. Comment down below as per usual. The metrics have been like really fucked up recently. I don't know why, but they simply have been. Where I don't think the video is actually going out to, I would say, 95% of the people on the channel. So if you would, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And, well, also comment down below, like I said. And I will catch you in the next one. Peace.